Okay, so I promise we're going to get to our first React hook, which is useState, in the next lesson. But before we get there, there is a very important piece of JavaScript syntax that I would like to review because it is critical to understanding how useState works. And that is array destructuring syntax from ES6. So what array destructuring syntax allows us to do is to unpack the different elements of an array and assign them to respective variables or constants. Okay, so just as a quick reminder, what I've done here is open up my console in Chrome. This is a valid JavaScript execution context, and I'm just going to give you a basic JavaScript example to show you this in action. So if I have an array here, which I'll assign to the constant of values. In fact, let me blow this up a little bit so you can see it. Let me assign this to an array of two arbitrary values, let's say 1 and 2. Let's say what I wanted to do is to assign each of those array's elements to its own separate constant. Maybe the first constant will be num1 and the second constant will be num2. So the old or more traditional way to do this in JavaScript was to simply index into the array at a given index and assign that to the respective constant. So I might do something like this. I might say const num1 is going to be values at index position 0, and I would execute that code. And then I would say num2 is going to be values at index position 1, and that would assign both array elements to their own constant. This is such a common operation that ES6 introduced this array destructuring syntax to solve this problem. The way it works is we declare the const keyword, then we use a pair of square brackets on the left-hand side of an equal sign, and on the right-hand side, we assign the original array. So for us, that is values. Then, within this pair of square brackets, we write the respective constant names that we want to assign to each respective element in the array. So in this case, because I have two elements, I have to write two names within this box, right? Within this pair of square brackets. Technically speaking, I don't have to write two if I don't want to keep both elements. For example, if I only want to take the first element, which is 1, I can simply put num1 here. And what that will do is create a constant called num1 that is going to be assigned to the value 1, the first element in my array. As I mentioned, I want both of our elements, so the way I do that is by providing a comma here and then the next name for the next constant that I want to create. So in this case, this is going to be num2. So what this is saying is take the first element in the array and assign it to the constant num1, and then take the second element in the array and assign it to num2. So the order of our names right here is going to match the order of the elements, right? So this syntax accomplishes the exact same result as we just saw with the indexing a minute ago, but the advantage is that it only occupies one line. So when I execute this in the browser, then I output num1 and num2, you can see it's exactly what we expect, all right? So this is a perfect introductory example for an array of two numbers, but keep in mind this will work for an array storing any kind of data type. So let me show you a more complex example. Let's say I have an array called stuff, and I'm going to declare an array and actually break it up across a couple lines. Let's say I make my first element in the array a string of hello, which is totally valid. And then what I'll do is make the second argument of the array, or sorry, not second argument, second element of the array, a function, maybe a basic arrow function like this that does a console log and says, what's up? So close the string, close the console log, close the function. This is totally valid syntax, right? Because in an array, we can store anything we want. Numbers, strings, other arrays, objects. We can even store functions. Functions are first-class citizens in JavaScript, which means we can use them like any other data type, including storing an uninvoked function within an array like so. So if I execute this, stuff is an array of two elements. The first element is a string. The second element is a function. But the exact same destructuring syntax applies. So what I can do here is assign both of my array elements to its own constant. So for example, my string of hello, I can assign to a constant called value. And my second array element, which is the arrow function, I can assign to a const like func. The names here are totally arbitrary and up to me. The point is we have two array elements, so thus if we want access to both of them and to have them assigned to constants, we write two of those names in line in square brackets, then we make that equal to our original array, and now value is going to be hello because it's the first one in our square brackets, which means it gets the first element in the array, the string of hello. And then our second constant func is going to be that array's second element, which is that function. Right now it's uninvoked, but if I take func and invoke it, of course, we're going to get that console log of what's up. So the key takeaway here is it doesn't matter what we're storing in the array, but it is possible for an array to store a function, and thus it is possible for us to destructure a constant whenever we are using, destructure a function whenever we are using this syntax on an array, as we're doing right here. We can use this destructure syntax and end up with a constant representing anything, a string, a number, an object, or indeed a function. And that is the key takeaway to remember here. This syntax is going to be critical to understanding the use state hook in the next lesson, and I'll show you all how it works in just a few moments.